Hi, my name's Alissa, and this is my story of anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. So when I was 9 months, I was adopted by my two dads, and I was always taught that that was like a super cool, proud thing to share and things. But when I was younger, I used to tell people, and they weren't as nice, and I was bullied about that for years. And that's what made me really close up about having two dads. I was really careful about who I told that to because I was told that it was wrong for so many years when I was younger. In sixth grade, it was a huge transition year from elementary school to middle school, and I met a lot of new people and started feeling really different just physically. And I would shake as I go to class. I would throw up in the mornings and at night and through the day, and I didn't understand why. I thought maybe I was just physically sick, and so I didn't really think much of it, and I continued my year. I still was shaking every day in class and just feeling super overwhelmed, and I realized after I would go to a class, I didn't remember anything that we just learned in that class. I knew nothing that the teacher just said, and so it just continued to go on like that until I started self-harming and cutting. And just a side note that I want to say, if you or anyone right now is self-harming or cutting, that is an immediate sign to get help, because I did think that was the best option and the only option back then, but it's not, and there are a lot of healthier tools out there to use instead of that. I was giving up on myself and on everyone around me, and till my dad decided to talk to his therapist about it. And that's when she was like, maybe we should get some tests to see what else could be going on. And that's when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And that made a lot more sense to me, I guess. I didn't know what depression or anxiety meant, but as we continued, it was like anxiety, it was the shaking and the throwing up. And I was like, oh. And I started to realize that the things that were going on with my friends were affecting and impacting me in these ways. And I still did not tell my therapist that I got what was happening. Around that time, I received a letter about my birth parents and how they were doing and the reason I was adopted and how they kept all of my siblings except me. And I just completely broke down after that. I felt so abandoned from them, and I didn't understand why I was the only one who was put up for adoption from my family. All I knew was I was put up for adoption and she kept all my other siblings. I didn't know any of their part of the story. I didn't know anything. So all I had to go on was she didn't want me, and so she gave me away. And that completely made me break down, and I did not talk to anyone after that. My therapist would ask about it, and I would be like, I don't care, I'm done talking about this. And we'd talk about something completely different that did not help at all. And finally, that therapist left, and I got a new therapist. So right when she started, she was like, so what's happening with your birth family? And I was like, I do not know who you are, and so I'm definitely not telling you anything. And that continued, just making small talk, and I would sometimes be like, I don't know, I think I'm sad. And she would be like, okay, and that's all I would say. And we'd just end the session there, and I wouldn't get any support or relief out of that. I was just hiding all of my thoughts about my birth family and about my own personal life and about how I was failing 3 classes at school, and I didn't care. At the end of ninth grade, I was assaulted for the first time by a close friend of mine, and that didn't really even affect me at that time. I think it did, but I didn't know it did. I just completely went numb from that, and I tried to end my life for the first time, but no one found out about it, so I just continued on. I was like, okay, so he's allowed to do this to me, and I tried to end my life, and no one cared about it, so why should I care? And I continued on with my life until the middle of 10th grade, when I was sexually assaulted again, and a lot worse, and that really, really impacted me. And it was a really close family friend who I've known for years, And so that, like, I don't know, that, like, was when I attempted to end my life for the second time and really just shut down from everyone. I didn't even process what had happened. I convinced myself that everything was consensual. I convinced myself that nothing happened. I didn't tell anyone, and I just made sure no one would ever find out about that, and no one would find out how much it impacted me. And I continued to self-harm, and I continued to write notes to people and make plans of how I would end my life again, until the third time I attempted to end my life. And that time my parents found out and my therapist found out. And that's when I kind of was like, I might as well just tell them what has happened, because I don't care at this point, and I'm just going to tell them. So I told my therapist, who I had met a month ago, that I have 3 attempts and that I've been really anxious and I've been really depressed and I've been self-harming for years now, and people have been telling me for years that it's not okay to have 2 dads, and I've just been holding that in. I've been trying to meet my birth family, and they just keep failing me. And she finally thought that I should go to a hospital. All of these events that have happened led me to this hospital, and so maybe that means something. Maybe that, like, why am I in a hospital? And I still would not tell the therapist or the staff there what had happened. I would tell them, I was like, I don't care that I'm here. I don't need to be here. I'm completely fine. Like, don't talk to me. And I would just leave myself in my room, and they would come in, and I would say the same thing over and over again. Till one day my therapist came in, and she was just sitting there, and we were just talking, and she was like, you're not going to leave. You're not going to get anything out of this if you don't open up and if you don't tell us. You obviously have had some things happen to you because you've attempted to end your life 3 times, and just open up. But that, like, conversation just made me realize, like, why am I not opening up? There's no reason for me to not be opening up. And so I told her everything. We had like a 3-hour therapy session that day, just telling her every single thing that's happened. And that's the moment that I really realized, like I deserve help, and that's, like, help is an okay thing to need. And I told the hospital, and they had to make a report, and they had to tell my parents, and that, again, really, really stressed me out, because I just didn't want to put any more pressure on my parents. I was already in the hospital, didn't see them for 26 days, and when they told them, I was so freaked out that my parents would completely, like, get mad at me. Finally, when we told them, though, they were so supportive, and I realized they were on my side and on my team, and I needed them. So finally, with that, we had family therapy, and we had group therapy, and we had personal individual therapy, and I opened up and I told people things, and that's when the other kids opened up, and they said, wait, like, I've experienced that too. And I was like, oh, like, no way. Like, I didn't know anyone else experienced this. I met other kids who were adopted there. I met other kids who have been assaulted, other kids who have tried to end their life and who cut and who understand the feelings. And that, I think that just, like, community was so much needed, and that really, really helped. And so those 26 days, I think, were the most beneficial and important days, even though I hated being in there and wanted to leave every second. I look back now and I'm like, I'm really, really happy I went to the hospital. While I was in the hospital, I did a lot of art therapy, and I did a lot of music therapy, and we did meditation, and we did DBT, and we did group therapy, and we got to really connect and talk about different things. And all of those different types of therapy worked for different people. For me there, I realized that journaling and writing out what I feel and think is the most important, even if it's, like, right in the middle of something. During school even, I'll get a Post-it note in the middle of class and just be like, okay, I'm feeling this right now, and I need to, like, think about again why I'm feeling like this later, because something that's come up. And that's what I really, like, took away from the hospital, was that there's different methods for different people, and not everything's gonna work for someone, but we had to keep trying until we figured out what would work for us. something that also learned in the hospital that really helped was like getting ready. Even if I'm not going anywhere or anything like that, fully getting ready and just being like, oh, like I showered and I actually put clothes on instead of pajamas. That really helped, just be like, okay, like I'm fresh and ready for this day to start. And that's something that really helped me. Recovery is definitely not a straight line in any way. I thought that once I'd get out of the hospital, I would be cured or like perfect again. And so many people would come up to me and be like, so now that you're out of the hospital, you're completely fine, right? And I would be like, absolutely not. I still do therapy every week, twice a week sometimes, and I know that there are going to be days where I cannot function. I completely break down still, but I also know and recognize those warning signs for me, and I am able to recognize when I need to reach out to my therapist and I need to tell my dad I need a distraction right now because I'm having some urges. I know how to recognize when I feel like shutting down from everyone or when I feel really unmotivated, and it's really helpful because then I'm able to tell my therapist or my parents that I'm feeling this way instead of trying to deal with it on my own. I still need to put the work in. I don't just magically get better. I take my medication every day and every night, and I still, along with the medication, I use my coping skills, and I can't just go to therapy and get better. I go to therapy and apply the things that I've learned to get better and to help myself out. And that's the biggest thing that I think I've learned, is that I want to help myself. Like, I was so against myself, but now I want to help myself and I want to better myself. And that's the thing that turned me around to wanting to get better, is that I'm my own best friend and I want to help myself. My life isn't perfect, but it's a lot better than it was even a few years ago. I never would have thought that I'd be reaching out for help. I never would have thought that I would be telling my therapist things, but that's the big thing that I want to emphasize. Reaching out for help and asking for support is the first step to bettering yourself and getting the recovery that you want. I strongly recommend that you look at more of the resources and videos on this page. You deserve the help that you want and need. Recovery is possible, and I'm living proof of that. We could do hard things, and you've got this.